Hey guys, sorry for not coming to you on a Wednesday, but it was a holiday that Brian is obligated to celebrate, and it's my mom's birthday as well, so we had to celebrate that. But this week we get into Brian's heartbreak, in which Indy had to forfeit all their wins from their undefeated season. The Sixers' 24-point comeback Wednesday night, and if we think that Markelle Fultz will ever play this season, and what to expect from his future. Some NBA what ifs, one of them being if we think D Rose is done. Then we jump into some NFL talk and Dallas's offseason plans. Then we rank the running backs from 27 and 2018 and see who we think is 1 through 10. And like I say every week, we're everywhere that you get your podcasts: iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher. Subscribe and leave us a rating. And, without further ado, episode 7 of BSing with S&B. Welcome to episode Jimmy Clausen of BSing with S&B. I'm Sean. This is Brian. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great. Jimmy Clausen, college Jimmy Clausen too. It's not even the Carolina Panthers Jimmy Clausen.
And since we're on the topic of Jimmy Clausen, how does it feel to know the greatest Notre Dame season of your entire life no longer exists? And also the sheer of y'all, or the sheer disappointment of y'all getting crushed by Bama no longer is existing. It doesn't in the record books anymore. It's almost like when Chris Benoit lost the title, but Randy Orton actually found it in the back. That's how the WWE.
At SummerSlam. Yeah, and Eddie Guerrero never won the title either. Hey, you know what, Sean? You can't vacate the memories, and that's all that matters to me. Monte Teo's girlfriend wasn't real. That season apparently wasn't real. But I saw it all happen, and it brought me great joy when it happened, so that's all that matters.
Even the loss to Bama.
But, hey, we went undefeated in the regular season. It was the first time they were ranked number 1 since, 1993 or whatever. I'll take it. It's a step in the right direction.
This sounds like a typical Cowboys fan just talking about the regular season. It's awesome.
Oh, my goodness. You win one title, and you don't know how to act in public. This is absurd.
Different
win one title.
Winning titles,
Win one title. They don't know how to act.
All right. Well, on to other pressing stories. Markelle Fultz, Brian Colangelo talking about him this weekend or this week said, that it's a chance that he doesn't play. They have to rebuild his shooting muscle memory. So what do you think that means for good old Markelle Fultz?
He's broken. He's got the yips, man. It's all in his head. I honestly think you need to just throw him out there and let him figure it out, because him just practicing that muscle memory, that's a joke, right? They got him doing VR. They have him shooting with 3 different size basketballs. They got him doing all this wild stuff. Just throw him out there. Let him play. Let him learn from his mistakes, build some confidence back up. I doubt he's getting confidence from just throwing balls out of hoop in a back gym with trainers rebounding for him. It's not a muscular memory issue. It's just a confidence thing, Just let him go out and figure it out. Get through the rookie wall. You got him for 9 years, all right? You're not going to win a title this year anyways. Just throw him out there and see what happens.
I think putting him out there would actually hurt him even more because, he gets out there, people actually see the hitch in his jump shot. People actually say he's broken. He ends up hurting the team this year, because he is not producing. He's taking away spot or minutes from, somebody that could actually produce. Yeah, he might be able to still do, what he did on the defensive end. He would still be that, kind of, pretty good defender with his height and length. But I think, actually putting him out there would be a problem. I think what they should have done, obviously it was handled wrong. The injury was weird, what quote-unquote injury. I think what they should have done, initially was just said, he's out for the season. Whatever it was, I think he wanted to play. So that's kind of why they didn't shut him down, initially. But I think if they would have just came out and said, he's got a torn labrum and he'll be back next season, that would have left him out of the spotlight. You would never hear anybody saying, oh, well, they should trade him for this, or they should try to get, whatever kind of assets they can for him now because he's broken. I just think it would be, a totally different situation if they came at it, differently.
What if they put him in the G League? Gershon Yabusele scores 35 points in the G League. He should be able to be effective in the G League, right? Just let him build up some confidence against dudes off the street.
I think that's disrespectful to the number 1 pick in the draft to be in the G League.
You gotta start somewhere, and I really don't think just having him in these, like, very exclusive workouts with virtual reality and different size basketballs and all this stuff. Like, just let him go out there and figure it out. Even if he's playing inferior talent, let him build up some confidence. And if it really is a muscle memory issue in his shoulder, let it just come back naturally from playing,
I think putting him in the G League would, cause more problems than it would, do good. I mean, Anthony Bennett, as bad as he was, didn't get to the G League for like 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah,
So.
well, that's crazy. Send him overseas. Send him to Lithuania.
Play
have
with
someone
the Ball
buy his
brothers.
rights. Yeah, get some money. Have someone buy his rights and just play in Lithuania.
God, you're ridiculous. I love it. But then we got to talk about the Sixers' big comeback yesterday.
I didn't watch.
Oh, they had a 24. They were down by 24 points with 3 minutes left in the third quarter. Or I'm sorry, 3 minutes into the third quarter. Came all the way back and won. I think that adds some credence to the Ben should be an all-star debate that we've had and that's been talked about. Had a stat line of 18, 10, and 12 last night against Dragic. And no Embiid. So people can't always say it's only because Embiid that he has success. I know you love that that tagline, but. What did you think about that?
This moves them to 3-8 without Embiid in the lineup. Obviously, some of those games are against good talent, but I'd like to see him do it consistently without Embiid if he's really an all-star.
Have to.
Well, even the on and off splits when just Ben Simmons is on the court and Embiid is on the bench, things like that. It hasn't looked good to date. Game last night helped his
article you looked at. In January 10th from SI.
It's been a month, but Embiid has played pretty regularly since that article was written. It'll be interesting. Like, he's a young guy, right? But his skill set, he needs an immense amount of floor spacing. And other than Saric, the Sixers bigs don't really have the ability to stretch the floor. So when Simmons is playing with more of a post anchor big man, it's more difficult for him offensively. And teams can kind of space him out a little bit. Obviously, he's athletic, so a lot of times he's able to kind of make up for some of those mismatches on defense. But, he's still young. We'll see. He's not really a rookie. He's a redshirt freshman, which, he's been in the league for a year already. But, this is a good compromise I was reading the other day. Can we give Ben Simmons last year's Rookie of the Year and then give Donovan Mitchell this year's Rookie of the Year? Because I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with that because Malcolm Brogdon is terrible. He's not terrible. That's harsh. But, people are going to look – that's going to be one of those questions like 20 years from now, like, can you name the 2017 NBA Rookie of the Year? And nobody's going to know because no one's going to know Malcolm Brogdon. They're going to say Embiid or they'll be like, Embiid was hurt that year. They'll look at the draft class and be like, wait a minute, I can't tell who it is from this draft class. Yeah, so let's just retroactively give it to Ben Simmons. That takes care of that, and then give Donovan Mitchell this year's Rookie of the Year. I think that's the best case scenario. I think it's fair for everybody. They both get to win Rookie of the Year in their respective draft classes.
No, I don't think that is accurate.
And while we're at it, we'll give James Harden last year's MVP. I think we should do that
that's
too.
That's ridiculous. That's hose. Hope he wins it this year. If they, with the time that he spent off the court, I hope he still is able to win it this year. Because he's definitely deserving. He deserved it last year, but they gave it to the stats guy. Speaking of guys coming in, I was really excited to see Bellinelli. I'm sure you didn't see him yesterday, but he played last night and put up 17 points in his debut. So that was nice to see. Obviously, he's getting in the minutes that he won't get when Embiid's there, but it'll be interesting to see what they do with those minutes and whose minutes he takes from. So I think that would definitely be interesting. Did you see the Woj article where he was talking about, what happened with the Cavaliers and the whole DeAndre Jordan trade and everything like that?
Yeah, the sticking point was Iman Shumpert, right?
Yes.
That's crazy. You couldn't. I guess I understand because the luxury tax. They posted today that the luxury tax bill for the Cavs next year, if LeBron comes back, is going to be $300 million. 300 big ones, baby. Straight cash to get swept by the Warriors in the finals. That's insane.
No bueno. And then if they would have done that trade, that would have taken away, that 3-team trade, or they would have had to find, something else to do or something else to ship to the Lakers trade. So it was all like this big domino effect. So it'd have been interesting to see, if they did that, what would have happened with that Lakers trade, or what would have happened with them getting, George Hill and Rodney Hood. So I mean that's weird that Iman Shumpert is the one that stopped all of that from happening.
Yeah, and like I'm not the biggest George Hill fan. I mean, I think he's fine. He's deteriorated a little bit defensively, but we don't know how much of that was because he was playing for like basketball wasteland Sacramento Kings. And Rodney Hood's like the typical like feast or famine dude. He's either gonna come out there light it up, or he's gonna knock a fan's phone out of his hand getting ejected. But DeAndre Jordan, to me, that was just interesting. He can opt out of his contract, which I guess isn't a guarantee because of, the limited cap space that's going to be out in free agency. But, like, what you get to move Kevin Love to the 4, so he's just like a slight upgrade over Tristan Thompson. They have very similar skill sets, other than DeAndre is a better athlete and probably a little bit better at protecting the rim. But I don't see how that really moves the needle much when you're going against a Golden State in the finals.
It was ridiculous. Did you watch any of that game? I know I texted you about it last night. Did you watch any of that Warriors Portland game last night?
I fell asleep at halftime. And from what I saw, it was just an absurd shot-making clinic.
It was ridiculous. I mean, you got guys were off, like super off. I mean, Clay didn't play that well. Steph didn't play that well. I think Steph was something like 3 for 11 or something from 3. But you had KD just out there doing anything he wanted. All the shots that he was making, it was just kind of ridiculous. He had back-to-back 4-point plays. It was just like awesome. Then you got Dame Lillard doing all the kind of crazy stuff that he does. He showed, why he was a couple of years ago thought to be, like an up-and-coming point guard. And now for some reason he's kind of in that middle class kind of. I mean, I guess it's because he's not really having a whole bunch of team success. So no, it was real, like that game was crazy to watch if you were watching it last night.
Kevin Durant, best basketball player in the world.
Hot takes. Fire.
At me. Go ahead.
Fire
best basketball player in the world.
But it was. I mean, he kind of showed that he was pretty good last year in the finals. So he definitely got
exactly. And he there's a very legitimate chance that he wins Defensive Player of the Year this year. He's
for sure
he's a better complete offensive player than LeBron. He doesn't have the same playmaking ability, but he's a better scorer. He might not be as good as transition, but he's still elite, and he's definitely a better defender than LeBron. I mean,
especially since LeBron's decided to fall off, the last couple of years defensively.
Yeah, like I don't think that's too much of a hot take. I mean, it's an argument at least.
Mm-hmm. And how you got to see the Cavs firsthand a couple of days ago when they thrashed the Celtics. How did you think the new team?
Who hasn't?
How did you think the new team, looked against you guys? How's their rotations and all that kind of stuff?
I think they looked exactly like how the new look Clippers looked against the Celtics, which is how almost everyone's looked against the Celtics since they've gotten back from London, which is fine. I mean, they're good. The Celtics are just playing horrible basketball right now. They're making everybody look like all-stars. So ever since Marcus Smart went and punched a picture frame and cut his hand, they've been mediocre defensively, and they don't have enough weapons offensively that they can just go out there and outscore teams. They need to grind defensively, and they just haven't been doing it. I don't know if it's fatigue, if it's, they're still a very, very young roster. I don't know if they're hitting a little bit of the rookie wall or what it is, but my goodness. I mean, the Cavs are 2-0. I'm not putting much stock into that C's game because, like I said, everyone's been rolling the C's right now. Mm-hmm. But they're not going to beat the Warriors. So to me, it doesn't really matter. It's just whether or not they're able to beat Toronto or Boston in the East. And I think that would be a good series. A lot better than it was last year, which ended in 5.
Yeah, that's true. And on to another former Cav. Do you think it's over for D Rose?
Yeah, it should be. He's garbage. He's so bad. He's injury prone.
He cleared waivers. I was and also doesn't know if he wants to play basketball. Sometimes he wants to play, sometimes he goes on like a 2-month hibernation.
Do you remember for the Knicks he just went missing? Like, Woj was tweeting, like, Derrick Rose is not at the arena tonight. Nobody knows where he is. And I was like, is this a real push notification? Like, is this really going on right now?
Somebody
like
hacked Woj.
Yeah, ever since, like, the Sixers ruined Derrick Rose's career. They did. They ruined it. They had to tear his ACL in the playoffs, and he's never been the same again.
Well, that's not the Sixers' fault that he lands on one foot every time he
he doesn't know how to land. It's crazy.
If any of you guys listening go look at a Derrick Rose highlight tape, you will notice that he only lands on one foot. When he dunks, when he shoots, it doesn't matter. Like, it was bound to happen sooner or later, especially with how athletic he is, how high he jumps, always coming down on one foot. Speaking of, that was something that, Embiid had to learn how to do because he always used to land awkwardly. So, that was one of the things that they kind of taught him. Everybody kind of laughed at it and poo-pooed it, but, teaching him how to land was, a big thing of trying to keep him healthy. Because that's definitely something that was a problem with big men.
Yeah, and with Rose too, like he had one of the worst diets in the NBA his first couple of years. Like he legitimately would eat meals that consisted of like gummy bears and stuff. Like this isn't even me making it up or being like exact. Like he would eat just like candy and gummy bears. And at least he's a great brother. Did you see details of his Adidas contract?
No.
His brother is getting paid $300,000 a year by Adidas as part of Derrick Rose's Adidas deal.
$300,000 a year?
Yes.
That's stupid.
Yeah. And his
his
best
brother
friend
doesn't work because Derrick Rose was good at basketball.
Yep, and his best friend is making, I believe it's $50,000 or $75,000 a year from that Adidas contract too.
So Derrick Rose is just paying for his best friend and brother to do nothing.
Real life entourage, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. Except not talented and fell off of a cliff while Vinny Chase was still out there killing it.
He was very talented. I don't know what happened. I think that injury kind of ruined him, obviously, for more ways than one, maybe mentally and physically. But it's just kind of, crazy. I mean, my brother, if he's listening to this, is probably crying right now because he was in love with Derrick Rose. And that was his boy. We always used to have arguments about how good he was. But, it's just kind of weird to see that he no longer really exists. It was like it was like 10 years or something he's in the league, 8 years, and he's just terrible now. And he's been terrible for like the last 5 or 6 years. It hasn't been, since that injury that he's been, really good.
It's karma for the NBA rigging the lottery to get Derrick Rose to go to Chicago. Also,
they had to do that.
Yeah. I'd be damned if I say number 1 overall pick, immensely athletic point guard, suffers an injury, develops a terrible mental block. Markelle Fultz is Derrick Rose. Mark it down. Except without the MVP. Mark it down right now. There you go.
Well,
There's your hot take of the day.
A knee for an athletic person and a shoulder are a little bit different. Yips, as we would call it,
it's
is not the same.
It's a shooting arm. It's a shooting arm.
It's the yips. There's nothing wrong with his shooting arm.
I don't know. His whole arm doesn't function when he tries to put a ball in the hoop. It's
Homie
scary
went
stuff.
home to his guy and was like, I'm the number 1 pick in the draft. What do you think I should work on? He's like, you should definitely change your shot to look like this. And he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm 18. I'm going to do it.
Just F me up, fam. That's what he said. He went in the gym, put up some jumpers. He's like, yeah, just F up my jumper, fam.
All right, well, on to some football, because, we can't get enough of the Super Bowl champion Eagles. I'm sorry, that's not what was on the docket. But from the Super Bowl Eagles, the brain drain continues with Frank Reich going to be the head coach of the Colts.
What a shame.
How do you think that – they're so salty, and I love it. How do you think that's going to work out? Do you think he's actually going to ever be able to coach Andrew Luck, and do you think he'll ever be able to, take some of the things that he learned from Doug or kind of help with Doug, and trying to translate them to his own offenses? This will be the first time, well, not the first time he's calling plays, but he'll be finally calling plays, which he didn't do in Philly. Yeah,
normally I hate offensive or defensive coordinators getting head coaching jobs, especially when they don't call plays. Mm-hmm. But then Doug Peterson kind of, shook that up a little bit. So, I mean, it all comes down to Andrew Luck, right?
Yeah, for sure.
He can't pick up a football right now. And that's kind of important to play the quarterback position, is the ability to pick up and then throw. of football. So, there's only 32 NFL head coaching jobs. You got to take one when you get one. But man, he's got his work. Jacoby Brissett's okay, I guess, but that defense is a tire fire. They'll probably add Chubb in the draft this year. So, they'll have a pass rusher for the first time since Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It'll be. He'll definitely. If Andrew Luck is healthy, I think he'll make it work. I think he'll be fine. It's just 100%. He's not going to have the luxury of what Doug Peterson has in Philadelphia of a lights out defense. So he's really going to have to get every ounce of talent out of that Colts offense via Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, because they're losing some receivers this year too. They let go of Dorsett last year via trade. And then they, I'm pretty sure Moncrief is a free agent this year.
Yep. So
that'll be interesting. And on to, because he's leaving, obviously there's an OC spot open for the Eagles, and the Eagles have come out and said that they don't plan on having an OC. They just plan on extending the roles of Mike Groh, who's the wide receiver coach, and Deuce Staley, who's the running back coach. So I'm very interested to see how this is going to work out next year.
Oh, my God.
Because they already said that they planned on hiring within with the QB coordinator job because DeFilippo left to go to the Vikings. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that, especially since Reich, DeFilippo, and Doug were big parts in Carson and obviously the offense. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the offense without those two guys there.
It's the Hugh Jackson approach. This is what the Browns do. They don't have an offensive coordinator, so you can't fire the head coach because no one can call the play. Obviously, Doug Peterson isn't coaching for his job for the next 30 years, but that's hilarious to me. How do you not have an offensive coordinator? You're just extending the roles. Just promote somebody. They don't want anyone's feelings to get hurt. That's what it is.
No, I don't think it's a thing like that. I think that they really like what Deuce does in that room, and taking him away from that room, I think he's one of the guys that really helped that thing kind of mesh this year. They brought in Blunt to be the guy this year, and then obviously he, after Sproles went down, he became the guy. They mix in Corey Clement here and there, but then when they got Ajayi, that really had a chance to go sideways, especially with him coming in, with them thinking that he was a head case and blah blah blah. So I think it was really interesting to see, him kind of keep that room together. And then Mike Groh, obviously what he did for the wide receivers, I think he's a big part in what happened to Nelson Aguilar this year and, the production that they got out of him. So I don't think they wanted to take those guys away. And I'm not sure if Doug wanted somebody new in his ear or kind of talking to him. So, it'll just be interesting. I think it might be a tiny bit of a mistake to not bring in an OC, but I don't know if they wanted to mess up, the chemistry that they have going with those kind of guys, right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I understand that. Obviously it worked out well for him. You're losing two big pieces, like you said, but I don't know. We'll see. It's kind of late, too, in the whole carousel to be bringing in. You're not going to get one of the better coaches to fill that coordinator role anyway, so you better just rolling with what got you there, and then maybe next year looking to kind of fill that void.
Yeah, for sure. Or trying to grab somebody this late from college or something like that. I think that could also, cause a problem.
Yeah.
What do you think y'all going to do with your boy Dez?
The latest from Ian Rappaport is that they're, in typical Cowboy fashion, they're going to extend him to get that cap number down. So they said he's not going to play this year at his current cap number, but they're not going to cut him because they've invested too much in him. So they're going to extend him, get the cap number down a little bit. Which as long as they're not adding any new guarantee money to the deal, I'm fine with. So that way,
there's going to be added guaranteed money.
Well,
unless they're giving it to him up front, there's going to be some extra guaranteed money.
Hey, I don't know. The amount of stretches and contract they always do this. They did it with Tony Romo 16 times. That's why they had to still pay him after they cut him last year so much dang money, and they still got to pay him a little bit this year too. But it makes sense because you're not going to be able to find somebody as talented as him in the draft without trading up. And the only person really worth that is Calvin Ridley, who, I'm a little bit concerned because of his age. He's going to be old for a rookie at a position that relies so much on explosion, especially for someone his size. So you just extend Dez. Maybe you draft someone, You trade up early second round to get someone that you really like. It's what they did with DeMarcus Lawrence. They try to get talent. Basically, you're getting a 1 but paying for a 2. It's what Bill Belichick does all the time. So maybe they trade up, get someone they really like in the second round, or someone falls to them like DJ Moore. And then they just kind of wait and see what they have this year. I don't see them going after any of the free agents because this free agent class is kind of hot garbage. So I guess it makes sense.
Money they want.
And the window right now, I mean, it's now. You want to go while Sean Lee is still functioning, and you have DeMarcus Lawrence who's going to get tagged. Who knows if they'll be able to bring him back after next year based off of how much it's going to cost. So it makes sense. I'm fine with it. But if they can find a way to get that cap number down a little bit so they can be a little active in free agency, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to really work. What do you think they're going to do with DeMarcus Lawrence? I know you said before you think they're going to tag him. Do you think they're actually going to be able to get a deal done?
I don't think so. I think they have to. Their main priority is Zach Martin, so they're going to get a new deal done for Zach Martin. They're going to tag DeMarcus Lawrence, and I think too, because of some of the off the field issues, and because it was this was his first year that he was really this dynamic pass rusher. I think they'll slap the tag on him, see if he produces again this year, and then they'll feel a little bit more comfortable extending. I mean, he's only 25, so you give him a 4 or 5 year deal when he's going into his age 26 season. I can live with that.
Yeah, I got you. What do you think you guys are going to do on defense? You think you got any plans to try to shore up the defense just a little bit more solid, just in case Sean Lee is having a problem, or something along the defensive line? What are you going to do at kind of cornerbacks? What do you think is going to be like your off-season plan?
Well, Scandrick most likely gets cut, and the rumor right now is moving Byron Jones to corner, which was his natural position coming into college, having him and Awuzie play outside, moving Jordan Lewis down into the slot, which is his natural position. They really like what they have in Frazier and Xavier Woods from New Day at safety. And there's those heavy rumors of Earl Thomas wanting to come play for the Cowboys. Remember last year after the Seahawks game, he came to Jason Garrett and said, "Hey, when I'm done here, come and get me." I don't know if that's this season or what, but I mean, if they're able, he tells the Seahawks, "Hey, I want out," and they trade, like a 4th round pick or something for him. He might be kind of the answer for him at safety. I don't really like any of the options for him in the 1st round in terms of linebacker or defensive back. I'd love to see him go after.
Yeah, you don't like Brody from Georgia? What's his name?
Roquan Smith. I don't think he'll be there.
God, he's a dog.
He is a dog, certified, raised in the kennel. But I just don't think he's going to be there. So I think they're going to have to get someone either like Vita Vea or Mo Hurst from Michigan. I'd be fine with either of them. Let's David Irving play, both inside and outside, a little 3 technique. They have Mo Hurst line up at 3 technique. But most importantly, they'll actually be able to rotate able bodies that can rush the passer, which they've been really thin. And all reports of Jalen Smith's knees should be relatively good to go this year. So if he can feel his foot and he turns into more of the player that he was at Notre Dame, who was that elite defensive prospect supposed to go in the top 5, I think they'll have something. You just pray that Sean Lee drinks some milk in the offseason and stays healthy throughout the year.
What if Jalen Smith is the football version of Derrick Rose?
Oh, you stop it.
All right, I'm sorry. I just had to throw that in there since you wanted to come out with Markelle Fultz.
That's rude.
What do you think about Johnny Football coming back? You think he's going to be able to make it?
I don't know. I want him to. I mean, now that we've had a chance to really get a breath of fresh air and he's kind of fallen away, I'm ready for him to come back. I mean, it got to the point where it was pretty insufferable whenever someone or anybody would really talk about him in the past. Apparently he has some mental health things that he had to get straightened out, and, of course, the domestic violence issues. But, I mean, it's more exciting with his style of play. So I'd love to see him make it. I don't think he will. But maybe if he's holding a clipboard for somebody, maybe the Dallas Cowboys, you were thinking about trading up to draft him. Instead, they took Zach Martin. I don't know.
Because you do have Drek at quarterback, so I mean it's not all sunshine and rainbows over there at quarterback for you guys. I think you kind of saw that this year with your boy going down. But yeah, he's playing in the spring league this year. Did you know that he's playing in the spring league, also known as the NFL retirement home?
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be on Facebook. Facebook Live.
I think that was gonna be interesting.
You see, AJ McCarron's gonna be a free agent now.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, AJ. There was something from the Bengals putting him on the NFI in 2014, I think. He was able to get out of his contract, so he's now going to be an unrestricted free agent this offseason.
What are the Browns gonna do?
Man, I'm telling you, I think they should take one of the. Just let Kaiser ride, man. Just let Kaiser ride and just get all the BPAs, just all of them.
Bro, if they pay AJ McCarron like a Mike Glennon deal, 3 years, $45 million, something like that, and then they turn those top 4 picks into BPA, they could take whoever they want there. Minka, they could take Bradley Chubb and Minka. That would set that defense up real well because they don't have any cornerbacks.
Yeah, I would take Chubb at 1 and then trade down from 4 because there will be one of those quarterbacks on the board that could get a ransom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. That's true. Didn't think about that because the Colts definitely aren't going to take one. So they give the the Giants can take who they want, and then they've got the Colts, and then whoever 4 and 5 is.
Oh my goodness, they could get 80 million picks.
Right.
Like the Bills, if the Bills want to trade up.
Yeah, I was about to say the Bills have I think 6 picks like in the first 90 or something like that.
Yeah, they have. I think it's 22 and 23. I know they have 2 picks.
Yeah, they have back-to-back first-round picks, and then they have 2 seconds, and they have the Eagles' 3rd, and I think they have their 3rd as well.
Oh my goodness!
I think they got a 2nd from the Rams, so they all end up being end of the 2nd picks, but I mean still picks.
Dude, they could, and especially Ballard, he's gonna want his guys, because he's taking over that analytics roster where Jabril Pepper should play running back. I really think if he played running back, he'd be a dog. I firmly believe that.
Yeah, running back or like a slot or something like that. Yeah, I think
him and Duke Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, on to a topic that I thought was pretty interesting. Guy on Twitter named John Ledyard got this tweet from my cousin. He says, "You've got this year's running backs class and last year's running backs class combined. Using all the information you currently have, rank your top 10 if all parties are healthy. Go." So that takes into account, obviously what you saw this year from the guys in the NFL, and then, what you have this year coming in the draft. So from 1 to 10, who you got?
All right. So you want me to rattle off 1 through 10, or do you want me to tier it? What do you want me to do?
Yeah, let's go with 1 through 3, and then I'll tell you my 1 through 3.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Number 1, Leonard Fournette. He was hurt this year, right? And this does say if all parties are healthy. The Jaguars line is no bueno. He still ran for 1,000 yards in 13 games. He's 240-pound back who ran a 4.5 40, and his power translates to his running style. He has the ability to make people miss, and he had about 36 receptions this year too. So he's an able pass catcher. He's not going to line up like some of these other guys on the list in the slot and whatnot, but he's able to get out of the backfield, make some plays. I just think he is an absolute elite running back. If he were with Dallas, he'd probably run for 1,800 yards.
So who you got for number 2?
Oh, sorry, I forgot I'm going 1 through that. That's lapse. All right, number two is Alvin Kamara. I loved Alvin Kamara when he was in college. He was at Alabama. Not a lot of people realize that. So he was an elite prospect. Yeah, he was originally at Alabama, transferred to Tennessee. This guy's been an elite prospect his whole life. And people kind of slept on him because he bounced around a little bit. Only started for 1 year at Tennessee, but he does everything that you want out of the position. He runs with power.
He didn't even start that year.
Exactly.
He sat behind. What was dude's
Dodds?
Name?
Hurt. Not Dodds.
No, it was Hurt or something.
Yeah, Dodds.
Tall, light-skinned Brody.
Yeah, who was like 6'5", 280-pound running back.
Transferred to some random place.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, and he does everything that you want out of running back. Would probably be a a top-tier slot receiver if you wanted to do that. He runs with power. He's very elusive. Tons of yards after contact for the Saints this year. And we just saw how dynamic that offense was by basically just adding him and, Ramczyk on the offensive line. So I have Kamara 2. And then number 3, Darius Geis. Love Darius Geis. He is a grown man. He was every bit as effective at LSU with Leonard Fournette. He actually had some better games when both of them were playing, like 200-yard rushing games. And he's a better pass catcher than he gets credit for. He's not asked to do it a lot at LSU because they have the coach from the SC LSU Mud Dogs from Waterboy coaching him down there, Farmer Fran. So he doesn't really get to show all of his skills, but he's a nightmare to tackle. When I saw a stat today, when he lines up against a box that is equal, so if they're in 11 personnel, a 6-man box, he averages 8.4 yards a carry. It's absurd. It's like if you look at the graph, he is the outlier. He just has way too much strength, speed, agility. He's everything that you're really looking for in a back, and he has legitimate vision that some of these other running backs that we'll get to eventually I don't think possess.
Like that. So I'll go with my 1 through 3. We're a little bit off. I did have the same thing for I had Darius Geis a little bit farther down my list actually. But number 1 I had Alvin Kamara. Do it all Jamal. I think he can do everything. Dude, I think did he run for 1,000 yards or almost ran for 1,000 yards this year? And then he was really up there with receiving yards as well. Obviously, he was splitting carries with Mark Ingram, who did have 1,000 yards rushing this year. Number 2, and with Alvin Kamara, he is the main reason I didn't want to play the Saints in the playoffs because I thought that he was a matchup nightmare for anybody trying to cover him, whether that was linebackers or safeties. He can't be guarded by those guys. And then obviously him. Go ahead.
He had 730 rushing, 830 receiving.
Yeah, he's a problem, dog.
Yeah.
My second guy was your first guy, which was Leonard Fournette. For all the reasons you named, I think Leonard Fournette, is that kind of, do everything back. He's not, I guess not do everything. He's not as talented in the passing game or in the receiving game, but I think, what he does in between the tackles is ridiculous. For him to be, 240 and run the way he does, running what he did in the combine. I just think that, that's a grown man. And like they said, with everything being healthy, obviously he would have got a lot more carries, he would have got a lot more touches and all that things. He would, his numbers would have been a little bit different. My number 3 guy was Kareem Hunt. I think from what he did in the beginning of the season, was kind of crazy. He kind of made that offense go. When they kind of got away from him is when they stopped having success. He still led the league in rushing this year. I know that's probably also because, the Steelers didn't give the ball as much to Le'Veon, and then he also didn't have a great year, Le'Veon, rushing-wise, but then you obviously had Zeke going down. Zeke probably would have led the league again in rushing if he would have been active. But on to 4 through 6. I think number 4 has to go to Saquon. I know me and you or him are down on Saquon, but I think just because of his upside, I think it's a little bit disrespectful to have him any lower than 4. I do think I like some of the guys that are coming out in this draft a tiny bit better, but I think just because of the upside, what we've seen him do, albeit against, some not great competition, he doesn't show up great against, top guys. He doesn't really have great vision as we've seen, throughout certain, plays during the season. He kind of wants to hit the home run all the time. My cousin disrespected me and told me that he was his floor was LaShawn McCoy, and I almost spit out my drink. I'm like, bro, you understand LaShawn McCoy for his whole career has pretty much been like a top 5 running back. I mean, you can't just say Saquon Barkley's floor is LaShawn McCoy. And something on NFL.com, they said that his draft comparison, because of the amount of yards he loses, was Barry Sanders. So your name, my cousin said that he was LaShawn McCoy, and then you got NFL.com comparing him to a Hall of Famer, and I just think that's ridiculous. I mean, that is absurd to me. My number 5 guy was Sonny Michel. I'm real high on Sonny Michel. I think he's going to be really good at the next level. He's kind of got speed and power. We saw that on display, in the national championship game. We saw that on display, all throughout the season, even though he was splitting carries. So I think somebody's going to get lucky with him in the second round, and he's going to be, like a featured back. He's going to be able to do it all. And then my number 6 guy is a guy that people forget about because he went out early in the season, and that was Dalvin Cook. I think, what he did, when he was just starting out, he was putting up numbers, whether receiving or rushing, and then obviously he was highly touted coming out, was supposed to be a top 15 pick, but then he obviously had the off-the-field issues, or people were scared of, the guys that he was hanging with off the field, and that kind of pegged him down a little bit, in the second round. But who are your 4 through 6 guys?
Number 4, I have Saquon Barkley as well. I think just because, like you said, he's an elite athlete, but man, the red flags are there, and a lot of people are ignoring it because he has these big plays and big runs, which most of which are just against Georgia State, and Iowa was his big game, which I mean, yeah, that's fine, but I mean, you're talking about a team that lacks athleticism defensively. In the Big Ten, that's like 7-win team. This stat, 16% of Saquon Barkley's runs were for negative yardage. 16%. That's tough. I mean, especially when the second person in NCAA at the running back position was Darius Geis at 8.6%. That's about half the carries for negative yardage. He lost 260 yards on carries of negative yardage this year. That's very alarming. I mean, he kind of has a little bit of that Trent Richardson in him where there's a hole the size of Texas, and he just doesn't see it, which, I mean, you can do it when you're faster and you're the best athlete on the field, but I don't know if that's going to translate. The reason I have him that high, though, is because I think he's best equipped kind of like how they used Christian McCaffrey, who's my number 5, who's a guy that you work a lot out of the slot, you find ways to get him the ball in space and let him make big plays. I think he's more of that type of back than he is kind of a Leonard Fournette who just lines up and runs the ball north and south. So I have Christian McCaffrey 5 just because I think he's a dynamic player, and with the way football is nowadays, you got to have someone that can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he does that at an elite level. For the Panthers, he's very similar to Alvin Kamara. He just doesn't have the ability to run with physicality like Kamara. That's kind of the big difference between them. And number 6. Which this is kind of where we finally get into spicy meatball territory. I have Kerryon Johnson. When he
make my list.
That's fine.
2 people that you just named didn't. Christian McCaffrey didn't make my list either.
That's fine. That's fine. It's just Kerryon Johnson. When I watch him run, I see Le'Veon Bell. It's the same kind of patient style. He has a violent jump cut. He's able to run with power. The shoulder injuries are a little bit concerning, but this is if they're healthy, so kind of put them aside. And what he was able to do in the SEC for that Auburn offense, he was what made it go. I mean, he is the reason that they were as successful as they were. He was just an elite running back, had a huge workload, and he has that very patient running style with the ability to put his foot in the ground and just burst forward. So I got Kerryon Johnson 6th. All right, and then at 7, I have Kareem Hunt, which you obviously had him a lot higher. For me, I have a little bit of concern. The middle of the season for him was pretty rough. I mean, he started off on fire, and then from weeks 6 through 12 was a little bit of a struggle. He had 21 yards, 87 yards, 46 yards, 37 yards, 73 yards, 17 yards, 40 yards. So, I mean, I'll give him the 87-yard game and the 73-yard games, but then you're looking at 5 games of 40 rushing yards or less. So, to me, he was a little bit too boom or bust. Obviously, he's a great athlete. He really was the one that kind of made that offense go. I don't know how much of that, though, was Andy Reid being able to kind of scheme him into open space. He's pretty great with his jump cuts. I'm just not as high on him. I'm a sucker for kind of your prospect coming into the NFL. I hold on to that a little bit. Because he was kind of relatively, a little bit less known guy coming in, I don't know how for real this is. So I have him at 7, though I do think it's very easy to make a case significantly higher for him based off of the total body of work he had last year. 8.5, Sony Michel. He was the best running back on Georgia. He deserved more touches in both of those games against Oklahoma and Alabama. They probably win if he gets more touches against Alabama. He has a little Alvin Kamara to him. I really do think he can be the same type of player. We haven't seen much of him out of the backfield as a pass catcher, but he has that dynamic ability and that flexibility that he's able to make people miss in the open field. Number 9, Dalvin Cook. Once again, this is if they're healthy. I really liked what I saw out of him from the beginning of the year from Minnesota. He was phenomenal at Florida State. He was the key to that offense. He has probably the best vision out of any of the running backs on this list. He doesn't have that absolute elite athleticism, but he's just such a great runner. He knows how to control pace. He has tremendous vision. And he runs with a little bit of physicality to him as well. And once he hits that second gear, he's as good as anybody else. And then 10th, I have Deontay Foreman. I think he should have gotten a little more carries for the Texans this year. I was huge on him coming out of Texas to begin with. Big physical guy. He can just make people pay. He ran for 2,000 yards for Texas. He's legit. Yeah, it is. I'd like to see him a little bit more involved because I'm not the biggest Lamar Miller fan in Houston. So, once again, this is if they're healthy. He was a little banged up last year. But I think he has the ability to be that every down back if Houston kind of gives him the keys to the offense.
That's crazy. There's like 4 guys that you had that weren't on my list.
Oh, Mike. See, this is why we do it. This is why we do it.
I was a huge Christian McCaffrey fan coming out. Then he kind of couldn't put it together when it came to running the ball. Obviously, he's great out of the backfield, which you definitely need. But if we're talking about running backs, when he might have to take over the carries because Jonathan Stewart is ancient, I don't know if he can. I don't know if he can do it. I don't know, what they're going to do with the running back position. If they're using him so much as a slot receiver. I mean, if they want to change him completely to a slot, I think that might actually work better. For them,
yeah.
But I mean, he just doesn't give you, what I thought he was going to give you out of the backfield. Maybe that was just because of the scheme. Maybe that was, I mean, and it's not even like they didn't have a good running back or a good line because I think they had 2 All-Pros or at least 1. I know they had 1 for sure. I think they had 2 across the line, but. My 7 through 10, I got Darius Geis at 7 for all the reasons you named. I'm really a big fan of his. I think he has the chance, to possibly be the best running back in this class. I'll say that about 4 of the guys that I have in here. I think that him along with, Sonny Michel can, have a chance to be the number 1 guy. My number 8 was Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon, is, really good. I think he has the chance to be a top back. I think him not getting a whole bunch of carries early, kind of hurt. And then obviously, the Bengals were a tire fire. The offensive line kind of was crappy. They didn't, which is crazy, they were actually able to fill the box, with him when they have A.J. Green and all the weapons that they do on the outside. I think all those weapons actually coming back. A.J. Green, Tyler Eifert. Tyler Eifert being there. I think, those kind of guys will help open that thing up for him next year. My number 9 guy was Ronald Jones. I think he has a chance to be one of the better running backs in this class. I really like him a lot. I liked what he did at USC. I mean, and that not saying that they play a whole bunch of defense in the Pac-12, but he was still able to, put up some numbers. And then another Pac-12 guy got Royce Freeman in my as my number 10 guy. So I think
hello
he'll be,
there.
Yeah, there's my spicy meatball for the day. I know I was kind of scared of Kerryon Johnson. I think he's gonna be. I think he has a chance to be good, but I don't know. I'm kind of scared of him, when it comes down to it. But that was pretty fun. Our 1 through 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't get the taste of Ronald Jones's 12 carries for 30 yards against Notre Dame out of my mouth. I saw it live. I can't
Brian,
shake it.
Nobody showed up for that game. That does not count.
I'll tell you who showed up, Sean. 85 people wearing blue and gold. That's who showed up for that game.
Yeah, and that was the only team. That's the only team that, I mean, they had their practice squad come out there and play that game. I actually think I saw some cheerleaders on the field for that game, too. Hi, Kelly. Oh man. But all right, bud, that was good.
That was good. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
go
guess
wrap it up.
be back next Wednesday.
Yeah, we had complications yesterday because Brian's married, so he's not able to do it on the Wednesday, and then that's my mom's birthday, so we had other obligations for Valentine's Day. So yeah, but I'll see you next Wednesday. We'll actually be back on Wednesday, for the first time in 2 weeks. But you have a good weekend, bud, and I'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you later. Shout out Dublin, Ireland. Keep listening.